Hey guys, and welcome back to the shop. My name's Nick and this is Walter, and today's show we're going to make a jig to make a really repeatable, nice taper in a piece of wood like this. I'm thinking about making some tables coming up pretty soon, and I'd really like to be able to make some double tapers in the legs, so this is going to be a quick, easy build to do just that. So the first step in this is finding a good runner to use in the table saw. And luckily I had some of this 3/4 inch maple laying around, and I think it's going to work pretty well. I made sure that it A, slid well, and B, was lower than the surface. And then in terms of mounting it, I measured that the edge of the slot was about 4.5 inches from the table saw blade. And so I'm measuring 5 inches in. I'll mark a straight line with my track saw edge, just because that was the straightest thing that was closest to me. And then we'll glue and nail the strip on at that location. That way when we run it through the table saw slot, it'll actually cut off the edge of the MDF, and we'll be left with a perfectly flush surface to work off of. I should also mention that there isn't much of a reason I used MDF other than because it was laying around and about the right size for what I needed. I think it should fit the bill in terms of a pretty stiff, flat surface to build off of, but I think that 3/4 inch plywood or maybe even something like particle board or melamine would work just as well. And I'm making sure to get any squeeze out of glue off that I can, just so that it doesn't interfere with the sliding, and then flush trimming it to the edge. And here's what I was talking about, running it through and making it a perfect edge with that little bit of an overhang, and now it'll line up directly each time after. This is some TTrack I got from Rockler. I'll leave a link to it in the description. I'm cutting it to about 12 7/8 inches. The 3/4 inch board is about 13 inches wide, and I wanted a little bit of wiggle room so it wasn't right up against the edge. This was the first time I've ever cut metal with my miter saw, but based on the internet's advice, they said I could do it, and they were right. So I'm going to be installing this TTrack in kind of the cheating way. I think that the real way would be to route a groove into the 3/4 inch MDF, but instead I'm using these 3/8 inch plywood scraps to be spacers, and they're the exact height of the TTrack. It ended up working out really well. And then to secure these, I'm just using the nail gun, and I'll come back and screw the TTrack down after I get all the pieces of wood in place. I ended up using these small screws from cutting board feet that I got. However, the tops of them were interfering with the bolt that runs in the track a little bit, so I ended up changing that later by taking the front one out, and I'll be getting the actual screws that are meant for this pretty soon. And then back to the table saw to trim the excess of those 3/8 inch plywood pieces off. Now we're going to work on the fence for this tapering jig. I'm using 3/4 inch particle board, and the only real reason is because it was left over. I think that some other things might work better, even hardwood, but this will do fine. There's not much of a rhyme or reason to the dimensions that I'm using, but it's going to turn out to be an L shape, and that'll allow there to be a fence with a backing on it to keep the piece from moving around. And I'm just roughing everything out on the bandsaw. Nothing has to be super precise, so this part was just an excuse to use one of my favorite tools. And if you're liking this video so far, I'd welcome you to like and subscribe to the channel. I'm having a lot of fun making these videos, and seeing the channel grow is making me want to make more. If you have any ideas for a video or a shop project you'd like to see, I'm all ears. So with the fence cut out, you can kind of see how it's starting to take shape here. And the first thing I'm going to do is mark the center of where these TTrack slots are, and then I'll canter it a bit and mark some outside dimensions, and you can see those will kind of be the extremes. And with one of the washers from the TTrack system, you can see using a drill bit to find out what the diameter is, and then I can use that to drill the holes. So with those lines that I marked earlier, I'm going to drill into them, and then I'll cut out the middle part with a jigsaw. This is going to let the bolt from the TTrack slide freely through when I'm adjusting the angle of the fence itself. And after I did that with the other side as well, this is how it's kind of going to go on. And this is the first time I've done a project using this kind of hardware, so I was pretty excited to see that it actually worked. With both of the slots cut and the hardware in, I'm just using this 3/4 inch piece of oak with a screw through it to clamp the pieces down. I know that Rockler makes a TTrack clamp that works a little bit easier. I'm just not sure if it'll reach over the jig that I have itself. And then with some lines drawn up on this scrap piece of wood, I'm going to try it out for the first time. So you can see me getting the fence in position, and then I'll clamp it down and take it over to the table saw. And just like that, we've got a tapering jig. Thanks for joining us and making the tapering jig today, and if you enjoyed the video, I'd welcome you to like and subscribe to the channel. Walter and I are both having a lot of fun making these videos and looking forward to more soon. So with that, have fun building.